Hi, this is Mark from LongIslandWatch.com. I want to get into the Marathon General Purpose Quartz watch today. I don't think it's a watch I've ever featured on the channel. I've certainly featured many Marathon watches. Marathon, mostly at least in my mind, is known for tritium tube watches, radioactive light source watches that glow for roughly 10 to 20 years without needing any illumination to charge them up. This general purpose watch uses what they call Mariglow, which is their photoluminescent compounds. You charge up with light, it glows. But it's an amazing field watch. Again, their general purpose, basically developed for the military, supplied to the military and all of Marathon's military customers, whether it be the Canadian Forces, US, Israeli, whomever. These watches are actually delivered to armed forces, and they are certified to meet the MIL standard for wristwatches, which is super cool. Marathon's been around since the early 1900s, long time. Family business, they're up to their fourth generation now, I think. So really cool watches. And there was an article on Hodinkee. Hodinkee did the white dial medium face SAR, I think. I'll try to put a link if I remember. Amazing article, not only on the watch, but just on the history of the company and who they are. A lot of times when you hear company names nowadays, they're just kind of reusing the same name. They're kind of trademarking out the name, or excuse me, licensing out the name and manufacturing watches under that name. This is not Marathon. Marathon is pretty much the same company they were 100 years ago, still manufacturing watches in Switzerland that meet the rigors of the armed forces. Speaking of meeting rigors, my Damasco DC-86 found its way back on my wrist. I have a strap coming for it. I'm very excited about it. So I figured I don't wear it as much as I really should because I'm not a fan of the strap Marathon Damasco puts on it. So I have something coming that I think will complement it better. And then that wave dial again that I showed off in the last video, kind of really digging it. Apparently a lot of you dug it as well. Let's check out this general purpose watch. So if you're familiar with Marathon, you'll know that they're more expensive. They're search and rescue watches. They come in those large, ornate piano box, piano hinge type polished wood boxes that weigh like 2 or 3 pounds each. The general purpose quartz, as well as a few others, still come in I guess what I would call military packaging. It's so simple and so simplistic that when I first got into Marathon about 4 or 5 years ago, when I got my first order, I looked at this and I said, what the heck is this? But it is very military, very U.S. military. You have a national stock number. Its description, of course, with all commas, starting from the general and getting into the specific part numbers and the mil spec that it meets, mil W46374G, type 1, class 1. And if you have access to the military specification, you will see that basically what a mil spec does, this is what I used to do in my old job, was it outlines everything that the timepiece must do, how it must perform, what it must look like, the size it must be, all that stuff. And the U.S. government actually goes out and they verify these things. So you submit a bunch of samples for testing and they make sure that they meet that specification. So this is what we're going to call the general purpose quartz, or the WW194009BK, BK for black. It also comes in SG, sage green. But if you're surprised, it is a small watch. It is indeed very small. It is only 34 millimeters in diameter. So let's go over the specs and then we'll dive into a bit more. So it's 34 millimeters in diameter. Okay, it's 11 millimeters thick to a flat sapphire crystal, upgraded to sapphire maybe a year or two ago, and we get this stainless steel kind of bezel that the crystal presses into. 40.5 millimeters on the lug tip to lug tip. Is a solid snap down case back with, because it is a quartz movement, it does have a battery hatch that you can see right there. So for battery changes, that's your battery hatch. It's a solid stainless steel case back. It is let me get this back on, a 16 millimeter nylon strap. These bars are permanent. You cannot put a two-piece strap on this. You can only swap it with other 16 millimeter pass-through straps. weight. The watch weighs 36 grams with the strap, 29 without the strap. So it is super duper light. Price, $160. That gets you a Swiss-made field watch. At 34 millimeters, very comfortable, very lightweight, and guys, you have to understand what it means to meet a mil spec. Mil specs are written for equipment that's going to be fielded and used by the armed forces, and it must meet all of that. Very expensive to do. As you may have heard in the past, $700 hammers, $1,000 toilet seats, all that stuff. This watch is meant for field use, and it stands up to it, and 100%. This is a rugged watch, despite the case being what they call fiber shell, which is a fiber reinforced plastic. Let's see. I went over the case. Let's come in on the dial a bit. The crown is also done in steel. Beautiful looking. So sapphire crystal. The second-hand registration on Marathons tends to be very, very good, especially even at this price point. They are Swiss-made. They're all made in their Swiss factory. I was saying in the beginning, Marathon kind of started in 1904. The Marathon name came into being, I think, in around 1940, 1939. They're up to their fourth generation of ownership. So truly a family-run operation. Beautiful strap. Look at the nice, thick, authentic keeper. Okay. Clasp is done in black to match the watch, making sure I got all the good stuff I really want to say. Oh, this strap. This strap, the nylon straps we sell are 280 millimeters long. This one is actually only 245. So when I try it on my 6 3/4 inch wristulator, you will see what it looks like. But I didn't get into the operation. So it's a very simple watch. You pull out the crown, you can change the time. There is no date on this model. Okay. So that's about it. And you push it back in and it runs. Again, battery hatch in the back for easy battery changes. The movement is a high torque at a F06 movement. So not even a cheap garbagey movement. The movement itself has 3 joules, accurate to minus 0.3 to plus half a second a day. Has an end of life indicator. So when the battery is going dead, the seconds hand will start to move at 4-second intervals, indicating to you, hey, it is time to change the battery. Just a real simple, awesome looking watch. I did not mention water resistance. At least I don't think I did. It is 3 atmospheres or 30 meters of water resistance, which again generally is the minimum amount of water resistance a watch can have. Splash resistance they call it, but absolutely no problem with this guy performing in water. Obviously you wouldn't dive with it, but it's meant to stand up to the rigors of military use. So absolutely no problems. Above the bone, below the bone. At 34 millimeters, it's obviously going to fit me just fine. So on the strap, you can see I can go much smaller wrists. Ridiculous. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I don't know, down to like a 5 1/4 inch wrist. On the plus side, I'm going to have to snap my arm in half. On the plus side, it'll go up to, whoops, come on. There you go. Another inch or so, so 7.5 inch wrist. And then after that, just get another 16 millimeter normal single pass-through strap, and you can up to 280 millimeters, and then obviously now you're fitting wrists up to 8 inches, I guess, if you really wanted to, although it might seem a little bit small. The watch retains extreme tactical looks with no surface being reflective, of course, except for the crystal. But man, it really looks stealthy. Love it with the black, my black accessory. It looks awesome. So usually with Marathon, I'm struggling to show you the Lume because they're tritium tubes, and tritium, glows very dimly. These are Mariglow. Again, this is passive illumination, not active. So charging with a light, and then it easily goes the entire night. The hour hand, the minute hand, and then all the indices have a little green hash mark with their Mariglow, and then at the top is actually, it's a slightly different color. It's orange, as you saw when the lights are on, but it glows nowhere near as dim. So that is your 12 o'clock registration point, answering my biggest pet peeve about watches that don't have a registration point. It looks awesome. I've covered a lot of field watches in the past, obviously. The Orient Defender, if you want to call it a field watch. I cover Bertucci a lot because I think they make excellent watches. This is a solid contender. And again, I can't stress it enough. The watches are made to stand up to military use. So you know it's going to be rugged. Now, before I close, I want to say one more thing. Marathon's not sold in many, I guess, retail locations. Their main business is military. They get one order in, from the government, it could be 10,000, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 watches. Okay. No retailer is moving that kind of merchandise. So it's interesting that you find them online. It's almost like this little secret gem of the military that is available to you. True, I don't want to say the term military surplus, but it's true military stuff. They really don't need to be selling it to the public, but they obviously do because, well, there's money in it, and it gets them notoriety and well known. Marathon does not just make watches. Go to their website, marathonwatch.com. You will see that they make a whole host of other stuff. They're very famous for their clocks. I sell a couple of their clocks. I'm not a clock guy, I'm a watch guy, but they're big in their clocks. They're big in stopwatches, whole slew of other things that maybe will surprise you. I guess that's about it. This has been Mark from LongIslandWatch.com showing you the Marathon General Purpose Quartz watch. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you've not done so. If you have any questions or comments, put them down below, and I'll be sure to address them as soon as I can. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.